There is a certain kind of man you've seen before, even if you didn't recognize him at the time. He is the one who blends into the world without disappearing, the one who moves through life quietly, yet leaves an impression that lingers long after he's gone. He does not chase attention, yet it finds him naturally. There is no performance, no frantic effort to be noticed, and no loud display of dominance. Instead, there is something subtler and far more grounding, a calm, inward gravity. You see it in the steadiness of his posture, in the patience behind his eyes, and in the way he carries himself without hurry or strain. While others scramble for validation, he appears complete. While the world shouts, he remains still. While the masses cling to crowds for reassurance, he walks alone with ease. He exists outside the usual social spectrum, beyond extroversion, beyond introversion, and lives in a psychological space of self-governance, self-trust, and inner sovereignty. This man is the Sigma male. What makes him rare is not the image portrayed online, but the inner framework that allows him to remain steady on ground that trembles beneath others. Most fears arise not from true danger, but from identities built on approval, belonging, image, and habit. When those external structures are threatened, fear rises quickly. But the Sigma male is built differently. His sense of self is rooted within, anchored in introspection, chosen solitude, and an honest relationship with himself. Because of this, he moves through life with a different relationship to fear. Where others flinch, he observes. Where others panic, he pauses. Where others collapse, he steps back and recalibrates. He still feels fear. Every human does. But he treats it as information rather than a threat to his worth. Like a traveler adjusting to sudden weather, he adapts without losing direction. So there are certain scary things that freeze most people in place that simply do not hold the same power over him. They cannot shake a man whose foundation is built not on outcomes or opinions, but on process, integrity, and truth. And in this episode, we explore 8 of those fears and why Sigma males move through them differently. Point 1, being misunderstood. Most people live with a quiet fear of being misunderstood, of having their intentions misread, their character questioned, and their identity distorted by inaccurate assumptions. This fear is deeply human. Social psychology confirms that belonging is a primal need, and misunderstanding often feels like a form of rejection. But the Sigma male is not governed by this fear. He understands something fundamental. You cannot control how people interpret you, only how you carry yourself. The Sigma does not shapeshift to match other people's expectations. He does not water himself down to become easier to digest. And he does not lose sleep over the narratives others create about him. His internal validation system is strong enough to withstand external misinterpretations. This is important to understand. Sigma males are not indifferent. They are simply not dependent. When someone misunderstands them, they don't rush to explain themselves or correct the perception. They recognize that misunderstanding is often a reflection of the other person's lens, not their own truth. The Sigma knows that explanations rarely change minds because people interpret based on their emotional frameworks, biases, and fears. So instead of defending himself, he lets his actions speak. The Sigma male's life philosophy is guided by authenticity. If you understand him, good. If you don't, that's fine too. This self-assured neutrality is rare because it requires psychological independence, something many struggle to develop. Misunderstanding also creates spaciousness in the Sigma's life. When others misinterpret him as aloof, cold, unpredictable, or mysterious, it naturally filters out those who require constant reassurance or emotional hand-holding. The people who are meant for the Sigma will understand him without needing every detail spelled out, and the ones who don't simply drift away. Being misunderstood becomes a quiet boundary that keeps the right people close and the wrong people at a distance. While others fear judgment, the Sigma understands its inevitability. His only concern is living in alignment with his values. The rest is noise. Point 2, walking away from the wrong people. One of the greatest fears people experience is the fear of losing relationships, whether friendships, romantic partners, or social circles. The attachment to people, even unhealthy ones, often stems from emotional familiarity, not genuine connection. But the Sigma male does not cling to relationships out of fear. He values alignment over attachment. And when someone no longer fits into his life's trajectory, he releases them with a quiet certainty that feels almost unsettling to those who lack this inner strength. Walking away for most people feels like loss. Walking away from the Sigma feels like maintenance, like protecting his psychological landscape from contamination. He does not abandon people impulsively. Instead, he observes patterns, behaviors, and intentions. He watches how someone treats themselves, how they treat others, and how they treat him. And when the signs are clear, he does something few people are capable of. He leaves without drama, without resentment, without lingering questions. He simply exits the emotional contract. This ability is not coldness, it is clarity. Sigmas understand that staying in the wrong environment is far more dangerous than facing temporary loneliness. They also recognize that keeping the wrong people in your life creates noise that hides the right opportunities. The Sigma's willingness to walk away is an investment in his future peace. And this terrifies people around him because it reveals something uncomfortable. He is not afraid to lose anyone he did not gain through authenticity. This makes him uncompromising, unmanipulable, emotionally sovereign. People often test boundaries to see how much access they can gain, but the Sigma's quiet detachment ensures that no one exceeds the limits he has set. Psychology calls this secure detachment, a healthy ability to maintain relationships without becoming emotionally dependent. The Sigma male embodies this effortlessly. Walking away is not a threat to him. It is a recalibration. Point 3, silence and stillness. Silence is one of the most intimidating experiences for the modern mind. It removes distraction, dismantles noise, and forces people to confront their inner world. For many, this is uncomfortable because their internal landscape is chaotic, unresolved, or cluttered with emotional residue. But the Sigma male has a unique relationship with silence. He welcomes it. He thrives in it. Silence is not emptiness to him. It is nourishment. Stillness is not stagnation. It is restoration. Neuroscience shows that periods of solitude activate the brain's default mode network, the system responsible for introspection, creativity, and self-reflection. The Sigma's preference for quiet environments naturally enhances his emotional intelligence and self-awareness. In silence, he thinks clearly. In stillness, he reconnects with his values. In solitude, he strengthens his internal compass. While others seek noise to distract themselves from their inner conflicts, the Sigma moves toward silence to understand those conflicts. This makes him emotionally resilient. Silence also gives the Sigma a psychological advantage. People who cannot tolerate silence often fill it with unnecessary words, over-explanations, or emotional leakage. The Sigma observes. He waits. He listens, not just to what people say, but to what they don't say. He understands that silence reveals truth far more effectively than conversation. Stillness also prevents impulsive decisions. The Sigma rarely reacts. He responds. He takes the time to understand the entire picture before acting. This gives him a strategic calmness that others interpret as mystery or emotional depth. In reality, it is simply discipline, the discipline of not letting external noise dictate internal clarity. Point 4, changing his life completely. Change is one of the most universally feared aspects of life. People cling to familiar routines, environments, and identities, even when those identities no longer serve them. But the Sigma male is not afraid to reinvent his life. He does not anchor himself to patterns simply because they are familiar. His self-worth is not tied to continuity. It is tied to alignment. When something in his life shifts out of alignment, his job, his relationships, his habits, his environment, he is willing to reset everything. Not impulsively, but deliberately. He views change not as chaos, but as evolution. Sigma males are adaptive by nature because their identity is internally constructed, while others say, "This is just who I am." The Sigma asks, "Who do I choose to become now?" His adaptability comes from humility, the acknowledgement that growth requires transformation, and transformation requires letting go. He's not afraid to move to a new city, choose a new lifestyle, begin a new career, or rebuild a new life structure. To him, stagnation is more frightening than uncertainty. Many people fear change because their identity is woven into their environment. But the Sigma's identity is woven into his values, and values travel with him, no matter where he goes. Point 5, saying no without guilt. One of the quietest, yet most powerful traits of the Sigma male is his ability to say no, firmly, calmly, and without emotional struggle. Most people say yes to avoid discomfort, fear of disappointing someone, fear of conflict, and fear of losing social approval. But the Sigma's value system does not operate on guilt-based decision-making. He understands that every yes must pass through his internal filter. Does this align with my priorities? Does this drain or strengthen me? Does this serve my future? If the answer is no, then he responds accordingly. He is not hostile, he is not defensive, he is simply clear. This clarity unnerves people because they are accustomed to negotiating boundaries, pushing limits, and testing social flexibility. But the Sigma's boundaries are not flexible. They are not constructed out of fear. They are constructed out of self-respect. Saying no preserves his energy, protects his time, and maintains his emotional order. Psychology shows that people who struggle with boundaries often develop burnout, resentment, and emotional fragmentation. The Sigma avoids this entirely by treating boundaries as a structural necessity, not an optional preference. His no is not rejection, it is self-governance. Point 6, being the outlier. Most people fear being different. They fear standing out. They fear not belonging to a group. The human mind is evolutionarily wired for tribal safety. Being outside the group once meant danger. But the Sigma male has transcended this instinctual fear because he does not seek safety from groups. He generates his own stability. Being the outlier is not a burden for him, it is his natural position. He does not conform to trends, adopt groupthink, or modify himself to match societal expectations. He lives at the edge of the social spectrum, not to rebel, but because conformity dilutes authenticity. This makes him unpredictable, not because he is erratic, but because he cannot be categorized. Others fear the loneliness of being an outsider. The sigma finds clarity there. Others fear social disapproval. The sigma is unaffected by it. Others fear disconnecting from the crowd. The sigma quietly chooses independence. Being the outlier gives him perspective. It allows him to observe human behavior without being absorbed by it. It allows him to make decisions free from social pressure. It gives him room to think, breathe, and evolve. Sigmas do not fear being different because being different is what allows them to remain themselves. Point 7, failure and rebuilding. Failure is one of the deepest fears in the human psyche because people attach their self-worth to outcomes. If they fail, they feel unworthy. If they fail publicly, they feel humiliated. If they fail repeatedly, they feel incapable. But the sigma male processes failure differently. He does not see failure as a statement about who he is. He sees it as information, feedback, data about what needs adjusting. This mindset shift makes him incredibly resilient. Failure does not derail him, it redirects him. He is willing to begin again because he does not cling to egoic narratives. His identity is not built on being perfect, it is built on being adaptable. Sigma males rarely catastrophize setbacks. They understand the iterative nature of growth. They understand that mastery requires repetition. They understand that obstacles are part of the process, not interruptions. When the sigma fails, he steps back into silence, analyzes the landscape, adjusts the strategy, and rebuilds quietly. There is no panic, no embarrassment, no shame, just recalibration. And because of this, people often underestimate him. They think he has disappeared, but in reality, he is restructuring. They think he is defeated, but he is repositioning. He rises repeatedly because he is not emotionally attached to the fall. Point 8, starting over, emotionally. Emotional resets are terrifying for most people. Letting go of past versions of themselves, releasing old attachments, healing from disappointment, or reopening the heart can feel overwhelming. But the sigma male understands that emotional renewal is necessary for psychological clarity. He does not cling to emotional residue. He does not imprison himself in old pain. He does not recycle outdated identities. When something breaks, whether a relationship, a friendship, or a personal expectation, the sigma allows the emotional structure to end. He does not force closure, he creates it internally. He processes the experience in silence, knowing that true healing is not loud or dramatic, but subtle, steady, and private. He reflects on the lesson instead of the loss, studying his emotions the way a calm observer studies a shifting sky, without attachment, without panic, and without bending his identity around temporary storms. And then he begins again, without bitterness, without ego, and without fear. This ability comes from emotional independence. The sigma's happiness is not outsourced to people who may change, nor is his peace delegated to circumstances he cannot control. His worth is not borrowed from external validation or temporary affection. And so, starting over does not feel like losing everything. It feels like returning to himself, shedding what no longer aligns with his growth. Emotional resets are not emptiness to him, they are spaciousness. They create room for clarity, strength, and new direction. They allow him to remain whole, unburdened, and available for future opportunities without dragging the weight of yesterday into tomorrow. Most people fear emotional emptiness. The sigma sees it as a blank slate, a quiet beginning, a fresh foundation, and the purest place from which to rebuild his inner world. And so, as we reach the end of this journey, take a moment to sit with what you've heard. Not as entertainment, not as motivation, but as quiet reminders of what already lives within you. The traits of the Sigma male are not about superiority or labels. They are simply reflections of a man who has learned to trust himself deeply, to stand firmly in solitude, and to move through the world with a calm mind anchored in truth. These qualities are not exclusive to a select few. They are accessible to any man willing to step back from the noise, listen to his inner voice, and build his life from the inside out. The world often teaches you to fear the wrong things. The opinions of others, the loss of attachment, the uncertainty of change, and the discomfort of silence. But strength, real strength, comes from learning to face these things with openness rather than resistance. The Sigma male is not defined by fearlessness. He is defined by his relationship to fear. He does not run from it. He acknowledges it, understands it, and chooses not to be controlled by it. This is not a display of dominance. It is an internal practice of emotional discipline, a deliberate choice to remain steady even when the world becomes loud and unpredictable. If you found pieces of yourself in these 8 traits, understand that this is not a coincidence. It is a sign that your path is already forming, that your inner foundation is strengthening, and that you are becoming the kind of man who does not need validation to feel grounded. You are learning to navigate life with clarity, quiet confidence, and presence. Growth often happens in silence, and transformation rarely announces itself, but you feel it. You sense the shift within you, the slow construction of a man who thinks deeply, moves deliberately, and refuses to be shaped by external expectations. As you move forward, carry this with you. You are allowed to evolve. You're allowed to outgrow old environments. You're allowed to choose solitude when it's necessary. You're allowed to start over. You're allowed to become the outlier. In fact, your life may depend on it. Thank you for spending this time here in this shared space of calm reflection. If this message resonated with you, consider staying on this journey with us. Until next time, move with intention, trust your silence, and honor the man you are becoming.